Good morning, and welcome everyone to what, if goes well today, will be my last welcome breakfast as chair of the board. This breakfast is one of the most important events of the year, and we're grateful for all of you for joining us today. We'd like to thank Eaglebrook Dining Services and Facilities for hosting us this morning. You'll all welcome me. Join me in welcoming it. Our gratitude also goes to our generous event sponsors, Cohen & Company Real Estate and Community Foundation of Western Massachusetts. We're pleased to be able to hear from them today. First, speaking on behalf of Cohen & Company will be Erin Callahan, followed by Executive Director of the Community Foundation of Western Mass, Megan Burke.
Good morning. My name is Erin Callahan. I am the Director of Operations and Growth at Cohen & Company Real Estate. We were thrilled to be asked to sponsor this breakfast because it gave us an opportunity to thank all of you. Our agents don't just sell open concept kitchens and restored antique farmhouses. Every real estate transaction begins with us selling you. The restaurants and shops, community events, city services, and business climate are the first reasons why our clients choose to make Franklin County their home. It can be too easy today to start thinking about housing like it's a commodity, some distant concept that's currently up or down, high or low, like it's being traded on the stock market. But the truth is that housing is home, it's shelter. And the difference in ownership is the difference between living in Franklin County and being from Franklin County. The benefits to individuals and families who have the opportunity to stabilize their housing costs and put down roots here reverberate for generations. Home ownership is the cornerstone of a strong community, but the hard truth is there aren't enough homes for the people who need them. There aren't even enough homes for the people who can afford them. And while that's a nationwide issue, it's going to take local solutions to solve. The fact is, there's too much cash in the market chasing too few homes, and the result is that average people using traditional mortgage products have a very difficult time getting the home they need without undertaking a long and aggressive process, and of course, having an excellent agent from Cohen & Company. But we need regular people. We need new families and creative young professionals, teachers, social workers, and firemen, and they deserve the opportunity to own an affordable home in this place that we all love. So what I ask of the public officials here today is that you continue to support anything that can bring more homes to Franklin County at every level. More apartments, more condos, more single families, more anything. Our seniors shouldn't have to look outside the county to downsize, and our children should be able to come back and start building their lives in their hometowns. If you need some inspiration, please see Sid Scott or Kathy Roberts so they can tell you about the many developable parcels we currently have for sale. But seriously, we've been helping people find home here in Franklin County for more than 70 years. And there are so many people waiting for their opportunity to buy here and become a permanent part of this amazing community that you all sustain every single day. So once again, thank you. Thank you for making it easy for our agents to convince people that this is where they should be from. And thank you for continuing to help us work on making that dream possible for everyone. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Wow, what a room. This is great. I'm Megan Burke. I'm the president and CEO of the Community Foundation of Western Mass. And I'm really excited to be here. This is a beautiful spot, so thanks for having me. I'm here because the Community Foundation of Western Mass is everyone's community foundation. We serve Franklin, Hampshire, and Hampden County, and we love every single county we serve. We serve as the hub for charitable giving throughout Western Mass. And what that means is neighbors helping neighbors, all with a strategic vision to increase equity and opportunity for all residents in the region. I think we're often known for the work we do to support nonprofits, through our grant programs, students through our scholarships and forgivable loans, and the creative economy, the arts, so that everyone can thrive. And I can talk a lot about what we've done in that area in Franklin County, but I know that there are 3 of us who are sharing 5 minutes, so I'm gonna skip over some of that and basically say, the part that I wanna make sure everybody in this room knows about, if you don't already, is that we make giving easy. In addition to supporting individual giving, a number of local businesses throughout the 3 counties have set up donor-advised funds so that their companies can be engaged in supporting their community. We also serve nonprofits. 76 area nonprofits have established nonprofit-advised funds, and we hold 126 designated funds to benefit local nonprofits. And why do people come to us? Because we make giving easy. Philanthropy is good for business, and there are numerous benefits for giving through the Community Foundation. We connect businesses to positive things happening in the community. For example, lots of folks connected with us to be involved in COVID relief. That was something that was much more efficiently done on a larger scale. We also can help businesses increase employee engagement and satisfaction through their involvement in company giving. So when you set up a donor-advised fund, your employees can help advise and recommend grants. We can also support businesses in engaging volunteers in volunteer opportunities at the foundation, for example, as scholarship or grant reviewers or on our investments or finance committees. We handle all the administrative aspects that make giving easy. The grant making, the investing, that's why we make it easy. We also know the community and the great work of our nonprofit partners. And I'm really pleased that I have a couple of colleagues here with me today, Joanna and Meredith, who really know the community well and can make sure to connect your business to the nonprofits in the community that are doing the best work. So thanks again for having us, and I'll turn it over to Sheila, I believe.
Good morning. I'm Sheila Domkaler. I'm from the Pecumtuck Valley Memorial Association in Deerfield, just down the street. And we are the umbrella organization for Memorial Hall Museum, the Old Deerfield Craft Fairs, the PVMA, Pecumtuck Valley Memorial Association Library, the Indian House Memorial, and I feel like I've forgotten something, but it's a lot. I always feel like I've used up half of my time explaining where I'm from, but anyway, we're really very happy to be the support local sponsor for this breakfast. It fits well because we're all about telling local stories, local history. We're in Deerfield, but we tell stories from Franklin County, Hampshire County, and of course they reflect our national stories. So our museum is just pretty amazing. If you haven't been to Memorial Hall Museum, it's free this year. It's a real treasure, a local treasure. We also have amazing award-winning websites, and we've just been able to do so much with not so much, but we leverage what we have and do a lot more than you would think we could. And we're able to do that because of our legislators, very much so, their support of the Massachusetts Cultural Council. So that's really what we want to do today here, was to thank you all for continuing to support the MCC, and it allows us to go forward and get larger funding from National Endowment for the Humanities and the Arts and places like that. So we're just very, very grateful and encourage you all to come to Memorial Hall Museum. Curator Ray Radigan is here with me today, and he has reimagined our military gallery with stories, lesser-known stories of women in the military and enslaved Africans and African Americans in the colonial wars. So come and visit us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Good morning. This is such a view. Thank you all for joining us. I think I've said this at every breakfast so far this year, but I really mean it this time. This may be my favorite breakfast of the year. As you can see, we have a very full, very informative program for you today with a number of special guests. So in the interest of time, I am going to skip the standard member announcements, individual welcomes, and bad jokes. But please just know, if this is your first Franklin County Chamber breakfast, welcome. We are so glad to have you here. So welcome to all of our new members and first timers. If this is not your first chamber breakfast, then you likely remember that it was at this event last year that the incredible Diana Zinal bid us farewell and promised she would come back to visit us. She stayed true to her word. She's here today. Welcome back to Diana. And when I joined the chamber as your executive director, so now that I'm just days away from the 12-month mark, I would be remiss if I didn't take a few moments to highlight all we've been able to accomplish together this year. So hopefully by this point you've seen what we're calling the woohoo section of the program. Believe us, that could be pages long. We have seen so many incredible accomplishments from our membership this year, but unfortunately we can't fit everyone. But we do want to take a moment to highlight some folks that we got to celebrate at last Friday's United Way annual meeting. At that event, we helped the Gazette honor our own Judith Roberts from the Literacy Project with the Kay Sheehan Spirit of Community Award. So I don't think Judith is here today, but we'll give her a round of applause. ServiceNet's Sean Robinson was named the 2023 Person of the Year for Hampshire County. Yay, Sean. And we got to applaud a young leader whose dedication to her community is hereditary, and that's Hadley Zinal. Hadley is here today, so Hadley, if you would stand and give a wave. Great. Congratulations, Hadley. All right, more big news. So remember in September when we were at the tech school and we kicked off the United Way campaign, and we begged you all to do workplace campaigns? It worked. We are excited to share that because of everyone in this room, and many, many more, the United Way exceeded their $1.4 million campaign goal. Yeah. Not only that, but with more Franklin County donors than before the merger, the United Way has been able to increase donations and funding to Franklin County nonprofits by 30%, which is incredible. So I do want to recognize the hard work of Jeff and Holly, my campaign co-chair, Jennifer Ewers, and the entire team at the United Way, along with the generosity of some Franklin County folks like our own Meryl Gagne of Gagne Wealth Management, who stepped up and put forth not one, but two $10,000 matching incentives. So I believe that's still going. So if you're feeling inspired, take advantage of that match because it's unbelievable. Thank you, Meryl. Now on to a group that I got to celebrate with late last night, and that's our 40 Under 40 Business West awardees. That class includes Sarah Ehrman, Adam Baker, Brianna Drowan, and Kyle Snow. Kyle is here today, so congratulations, Kyle, and to the whole class. And fun fact, Franklin County was better represented at this year's Business West 40 Under 40, not only just with awardees, but with nominations and attendance. And I would love to tell you as one of the judges this year that I am in some way responsible for that, but it truly just is a reflection of the incredible talent pool of young professionals we have here in Franklin County. So congratulations to all of those who made that as impactful as it was. And we have a number of young professionals here. This year, our young professional group hosted several well-attended pop-up networking events and performed a hip-hop mashup of Grease Lightning in a community fundraising show that helped Duke raise $25,000 for the United Arc. So that was amazing. Great job, young professionals. I think the biggest win there was that we pop-locked and dropped it in poodle skirts and then managed to pick ourselves back up. But congratulations to Shannon, Chris, Michelle, and all of the young professionals who continue to fill our pipelines with emerging leaders. We are so grateful for your work. So thank you, young professionals. So it's clear that our network has seen a lot of success this year, and our chamber has too. Over the last 12 months, we've seen some significant progress in the metrics we're tracking. So I'm going to share a few of those with you today because who doesn't love a small side of statistics with their scrambled eggs at 8 in the morning? Everybody take a big sip of coffee. Here we go. First, we saw more new members this year than any of the previous years combined. We found support through an 86.3% increase in sponsorships without raising membership rates. We successfully branded the Chamber in September. We brought back ribbon cuttings and celebrated new member businesses and helped market existing member businesses through our 2023 hard copy membership directory with the Recorder. Thank you for their partnership there. We saw a 99.5% increase over last year in Facebook followers, a 96% increase over last year in Instagram reach. Our social media page visits are up 199.4% over last year. And this increased online visibility really just gives us a better opportunity to shine a light on our membership and obviously amplify the incredible marketing that you're all doing. So that's the win there. And if you're thinking, hey, those statistics could be higher, you can always follow us today. So please be sure to follow us and tag and share. We served as a conduit for community connections by hosting more than 20 networking opportunities and saw a refreshed enthusiasm for these events. Take today, for example, we have double the attendees at this event today than we did last year. So thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. And then in addition to hosting our own events, we supported our members by attending more than 450 member and community events to ensure that the Chamber's engagement is felt by communities and industries we serve. We created a mini grant to help move Franklin County into phase 2 of the digital economy work with the Center of Rural Innovation. We helped create and propel the Arts Hub of Western Mass, which is a first of its kind online directory of creatives and supportive services for all kinds of artists across Western Mass to help drive our local creative economy. We met with businesses, nonprofits, and elected officials and stakeholders from all 26 Franklin County communities. I will not include the mileage on my minivan in this statistic, but it is also very impressive. We also strengthened collaborations with community partners like GCC, CISA, the Franklin County CDC, the FERCOG, Common Capital, the Greenfield Business Association, the Shelburne Falls Initiative, Mass Development, and many, many, many more by serving on 18 community-based committees. Having a seat at so many important tables allows us to strengthen the voice of the businesses and nonprofits we represent and helps ensure that the power of Franklin County's presence is felt across the state. And that's just on the Chamber side of the house. As you know, in addition to operating as the Franklin County Chamber of Commerce, we also serve as its Regional Tourism Council. We are one of 16 RTCs in the state funded by the Massachusetts Office of Tourism and Travel. As such, this year we submitted our most successful grant application. We're saying in recent history, it could be ever, the files only go back 10 years. But we more than doubled our award that we received from the state over last year. And that funding has allowed us to take our new More to Franklin County brand and really hit the ground running. So we built a new standalone tourism website at moretofranklincounty.com. After you follow us on Facebook, you can check out that website. We put Franklin County on the pages of Yankee Magazine and the Wall Street Journal. We reimagined traditional tourism guidebooks with our evergreen Franklin County Beauty Lookbook. That's coming out next month. We collaborated with our friends from the Hampshire County and the Greater Northampton Chamber to encourage nature lovers to take advantage of all of the outdoor recreation opportunities that Western Mass has to offer. And alongside 5 of our regional RTCs, we were awarded a joint $1 million travel and tourism season extension grant to help bring some much needed national attention to all of our Western Mass area during the shoulder season. And there is so much more, but I will stop. But there is so much more. It's been a big year for Franklin County. It's been a big year for the Chamber. And do you know why all of this was possible? Marion is a very good guess. It's a very, very good guess. Yes, and because of you, our members, our community partners. This year's achievements showcase that the businesses, nonprofits, and elected officials of Franklin County are recommitted and recharging to really think through how we can better build our economic ecosystem and, most importantly, support each other. I see it daily. Strategic collaboration really is the secret sauce of Franklin County, and one of the reasons that we'll be able to successfully help our legislators tackle many of the challenges we'll hear about later in the program and that Aaron mentioned. We will do it together, and your investment in supporting local and supporting the Chamber shows that you're on board and that you see the value that the Chamber brings to fueling Franklin County's economic fire and bringing the communities closer together to becoming the inclusive, sustainable, thriving spaces we know they can be. And the best part is that I know that our regional chambers up and down the valley are seeing similar success, because there really is no substitution for the connection, opportunity, and vision that our Western Mass chambers bring to the communities we serve. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the support that I've received from Diana at the Springfield Regional Chamber, Vince, Claudia, all of our chamber partners up and down the valley. We really are working together in a way that I have not yet experienced, and it's amazing to see. So thank you to them. And still, even as we celebrate these successes at Franklin County Chamber, we know we are just getting started. We're going to take this momentum, we're going to maximize it. We'll be launching some new initiatives, new educational opportunities for our members, new industry stakeholder summits. We're revamping our gift card program and announcing new strategic goals, all of which will serve as a roadmap to enhance the Chamber's value so we can more effectively support your success and continue to work together to build the best Franklin County possible. Woo! Right. So we've got a lot of work to do, but we've got a great team to do it, Marion included. So with that, I would like to thank my board, who's been unbelievable this year, and invite up Linda Dunleavy, who will be presenting our 2023 board slate and kick off the Chamber's 104th board election. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Let's start with a woohoo for Jesseye and Marion and Lisa. Thank you. Second, I'd like to thank Plum, Main Street, Greenfield, for dressing me this morning. Third, for those of you that were here last year, you know I really fumbled over this task, but Jesseye and I have it together this year. And our board, we work really hard to make sure that the chamber is representative of all of the business and interests in Franklin County, and you're going to like this slate. So, let me go through this, and then I will ask for a motion. First, directors for election and re-election. I forgot to thank Marion. I'm doing this without wearing glasses. Thank you, Marion. Directors for election and re-election. Bobby Betzold, All States Materials Group, new. Ron Bryant, Bay State Franklin Medical Center, re-election. Andy Bridges, First Light Power, new. Amanda Abramson Clark, Caldwell Banker Community Realtors, re-election. Ben Clark, Clarkdale Fruit Farms, re-election. Kristen Cole, Greenfield Community College, re-election. Michelle Dwyer, Franklin First Federal Credit Union, new. Liz Fisk, WHAI Bear Country and the Outlaw, re-election. Jeremy Goldshear, Green Space Co-work, new. Shelby Snow, Hanson Basic. Hassan-Basic. Yeah. Damn.
It's a tricky one.
I know. Re-election. Shelby Snow. That's how we know her. Michael Kane, Eversource, Julie Orvis, Historic Deerfield, Shannon Martineau, Franklin County Development Corporation, new. Amy McMahon, Mesa Verde, Walter Ramsey, Town of Montague, new. Stephen Rickman, Girls Club Incorporated, new. Chris Sellers, the brewery at 4 Star Farms, new. Caitlin Von Schmidt from the city of Greenfield. And that's just the new people in re-election. Isn't that a great diversity of business and interests? And then the Chamber's officers and executive committee for election are Wade Bassett, Yankee Candle. Amanda Abramson Clark, Caldwell Banker Community Realtors as vice chair. Bob Gilmore from Gilmore and Farrell is treasurer. I forgot to say Wade is agreed to be chair. Sorry. And then, did I say that?
No, you did, but just don't jinx it.
Okay, I won't. Okay, don't jinx it. And then 4 at-large members, me, Franklin Regional Council of Governments, Liz Fisk from WHAI, Julie Orvis from Historic Deerfield, and Shelby Snow from the Northfield Golf Course as at-large. So I will take a motion to accept both the officers and the elections and re-elections. Thank you, Liz Fisk, and I'm going to take that as a second from Danny Letourneau. All in favor of that amazing slate? Aye. Thank you. Am I announcing Wade now?
Yes.
Wade, congrats.
Thank you, everyone. When Jesseye asked me to speak today, she said, there's only been 10 or 15 people here. And she lied. And I sat out there last year, and when you stand up here, the room looks a lot fuller. So those of you who don't know me, I bring the best fragrance to these chamber events, the best raffle prizes. And I also work at Yankee Candle Village. I wanted to take a moment, and I'm just going to call her Shelby. I wanted to take a moment to thank Shelby for her commitment to the chamber, especially during our executive director search and transition, and we found a good one. I think we all agree. Shelby, for me personally, you've been a supportive and calming influence every step of the way, and I am proud to share a seat on the board with you. Thank you for your commitment to the chamber, and especially our community. I think we all agree we appreciate you. And I've got a parting gift for you, and I must say, it's not a brand new car. And you don't have to open this here, but it's a nice little package. And I did not wrap that. Thank you, Shelby. Snow. So as you know, with Shelby's term ending, I've accepted the role of the chair. I've been asked a few times, I've said no, and Jesseye came back again and said, you're doing it. So here I am. Franklin County is special to me. It's where I went to school, I raised my son, I've built a life here. It's where I've worked, lived, and played. I'm excited for the opportunity to continue to help make our community everything that it continues to be, and I'm really excited to see everybody here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Wade. Shelby, thank you for everything you've done. Wade, thank you for everything you're about to do. We do have such an incredible board. We're very, very lucky. So thank you to our entire board of directors. Can we give them one more round of applause? So far today, we've talked a lot about Franklin County's strengths. But as everyone in this room is acutely aware, we also have our challenges. In addition to highly concerning population decline projections, Franklin County faces the same housing, transportation, workforce shortage, infrastructure, environmental, education, child care, and elder care challenges that we're seeing. I know it's a long list. It gets better, I promise. We're gonna bump up the good vibes here in a second. That we're seeing regionally and across the state. But we also have the exciting added element of being one of the only entirely rural counties in the Commonwealth. We're one of 3. So that makes things a little more complicated. But on a positive note, here's the good news I was mentioning. Franklin County has a superpower that none of our other communities across the state have, and that's these folks right here. As we know, our legislators hustle hard on our behalf, and their presence here today is just one small example of that. I have been so fortunate to have the opportunity to work with every single one of them this year, and I am so grateful for their support and their tireless engines and all of the ways that they champion Franklin County across the state. So please help me welcome someone who needs no introduction, Senator Joe Comerford.
Good morning. Talk about tireless. Jesseye and Marianne and Lisa, thank you so much for this beautiful gathering. And it really is, Wade, a beautiful sight to look out and see this packed room of leaders in Franklin County. I am so delighted to be here with such amazing colleagues in the House and the Senate. And give it up for Ann Gobi, who's our new Rural Affairs Director. Jesseye mentioned the secret sauce of Franklin County, which is that we work harder and smarter every day, and we do that through deep partnerships with each other. And that's true of the delegation, and it's true of what I've witnessed over the last 4+ years representing the Hampshire-Franklin-Worcester district. Right now, there are 15 beautiful cities and towns that I get to represent in Franklin County, and it is such a privilege and an honor to do this work. and I get to do it with Elena Cohen. Thank God for Elena. And as much as we've accomplished, and as Jesseye, I think, rightly brought us to this more sobering moment, there's so much work to do. So much work to do for Franklin County, which is why I'm glad to be here with you and with these colleagues of mine. So there's been a lot of conversation about competitiveness in the state, right? Our governor's talking about it, the House and Senate are talking about it. We know we talk about it here in terms of economic development and growth and beating back these population projections and really wanting the kind of urgent electricity in our communities to attract new people to Franklin County, to the way of life that we love here. So I'm going to talk just briefly about 3 pieces of work that I've been doing. And when I say I've been doing, I really mean we've been doing, because there is nothing that I do separately from my House and Senate colleagues. But I'll start first, and I'll focus on workforce, transportation, and housing. And we could talk, and I know my colleagues are going to talk a lot more about many other important topics. So I'll start with transportation. I want to raise up FERCOG and the FRTA for continuing to call us to the needs of rural communities and RTAs. And I'm really deeply grateful for an early partnership I had, thanks to Linda and Megan and the FRTA, to start really thinking about how is it that we bring bus transportation, reliable RTA service to Franklin County. And an early project that we started, again, thanks to Linda and Megan and the FRTA, was microtransit. We got some early earmarks. There was a pilot, and I'm so happy to say that in the Senate budget there's $194 million. Part of that will start to hopefully sustain new methods of transportation for the RTAs, so that we maybe can't bring the big bus up to Leiden and Bernardston, but maybe we can send a zippy little microtransit, a public Uber of sorts. And I believe that's one of the hurdles that we all are collectively working on, and it's one I'm proud to say in the Senate budget there was some traction on. I also want to talk about rail. You'll probably hear about rail from many of my colleagues. So there's a rail revolution happening in Western Massachusetts. There's a rail commission that I'm proud to sit on, along with Rep. Blais. Senator Gobi was on it before she became the Rock and Rural Affairs Director. And Linda's on it, and many others from the region. And what that signals is that the delegation up and down the Connecticut River Valley has been focused on the ways in which we have a right and an opportunity to hook ourselves up to the east, to the north, to the south, to the west. And so we've had some gains. The Valley Flyer north-south service from Greenfield is now permanent. That's permanent because you wanted it to be permanent. It's permanent because we worked for it to be permanent, but that's not all. We don't just get to have one rail service. So there's great work connecting Pittsfield to Boston along the southern tier, and I want to talk just briefly about the northern tier. So there was rail service along the northern tier, Route 2, from North Adams into Boston. It happened until about 1968. That rail service could come back. Right now there is a study, thank you Jesseye for being a strong participant in that. There's a study looking at the possibility of restarting passenger rail. That's a stop in Greenfield, a stop in Orange maybe, who knows, where we can go down, over and back from Franklin County into Boston. And the thing that's going to make it happen is you. We're building support, we're building connection, because it's people power always wins the day in these kinds of instances. And I'm looking at the fact that I'm getting to 5 minutes, so I'm going to go super, super quickly and just say, in terms of housing, that was a beautiful set of remarks about housing. The Senate budget and the tax package we just passed make some meaningful, meaningful contributions. There's a low-income tax credit, an HDIP tax credit in the recent Senate package we passed last night. That's going to hopefully help spur housing development, even while we actually have to do better to protect renters. And the last thing I'll say is just about workforce training. Congratulations, President Shute. We are so happy you're here to lead GCC. And in the Senate budget, we talk about making community college free. Why? Because it is the biggest leaping pad we have to really heal from the COVID pandemic, to build greater economic and racial equity, to close the racial wealth gap. And we can do that. And we can do that while also providing the workforce for the 21st century that your businesses need. So the Senate makes huge gains, transformative, generational gains in higher education. And we start to lay the groundwork with President Schutt and her colleagues to open up the doors in 2024 to make sure that everybody who wants a community college education gets it. We start with nursing this coming year, and hopefully after that we'll see GCC turning out class after class after class, and the partnership with President Schutt meaning that your businesses have the workforce that they need and deserve. Thank you so much. And now I think I get to bring up Senator Paul Mark, who again needs no introduction. Paul is just joined the Senate, but he's certainly not new to the legislature. Paul Mark.
Thank you. And modesty prevents Senator Comerford from saying she's the chair of higher education, so she is at the lead of these discussions to make education affordable and accessible to everybody, including workforce development. She's the vice chair of agriculture, and she's also in only a third term, the assistant vice chair of Ways and Means. So if you need money, go to her. So thank you for kicking off our comments, Senator. And so here I am for the first time since 2019, going from the House to the Senate. And I now represent the Berkshire, Hampden, Franklin, and Hampshire Senate District, which is 57 cities and towns in Berkshire, Franklin, Hampden, and Hampshire counties. And in alphabetical order, those towns are Adams, Alford, Ashfield. Yeah, okay. Luckily, people start laughing by the time I get to the third one because I can't keep going. But it's wonderful to be here. And as I was thinking about today, now as a House member, I'd make some jokes. And I started thinking as a senator, no jokes. Senate is upper chamber. Senator is serious. So I was preparing some serious remarks yesterday. And then I was sitting in my office at the State House, and one of my other new Senate colleagues texts me, "Paul, you're missing the butts in the chamber." I didn't know they gave out cigarettes in the chamber. I got to see what this is about, right? So I run down to the Senate chamber, and no, she meant the human buttocks. I don't know if people read this. 8 people were in the Senate chamber gallery, dropped their pants to protest fossil fuel infrastructure. The Senate is wild. So I figure I'll do at least 2 jokes. So I didn't give a farewell from the House because I figure I'm just moving across the hallway, right? So why do that? But I had a joke I wanted to tell as a longtime House member moving to the Senate. How many people does it take for a senator to change a light bulb? How many people? Yeah. At least 3. You need a senator to take credit, a staffer to issue a press release, and a House member to do the work. But now that I'm in the Senate, that's not funny anymore. And so the better joke is now, how many House members does it take to change a light bulb? However many the Speaker says. All right. So anyway, so now to the serious stuff. It is wonderful to have gone from the House to the Senate. You go from being one of 160 to one of 40. And the opportunities from that, especially having the benefit of 12 years in the House, and in my Senate district, we had not sent a House member to the Senate since 1961. And so it was important for me to get into business right away and hopefully show some successes. And now when you're in the Senate, you get to chair a committee automatically, at least if you're a Democrat. And the fun in that is they appointed me to chair the Joint Committee on the Joint Committee on Tourism, Arts, and Cultural Development. And so what a great committee for this area and for this region. And I'm excited because part of chairing that committee comes with, I'm also the chair of the Commission on the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. And that's going to be a statewide celebration, and actually a national celebration, starting this year, starting with the 250th anniversary of the real Boston Tea Party, December 2023, and moving into a culmination, I think, with Patriots Day, April 19th, 2025. hopefully we'll have a good president. Last time in the bicentennial, the president came down and was part of this, President of the United States. So it can be a big thing for our state, and we want to involve the entire state in this. We don't want this to just be a Boston and Lexington and Concord thing. So I would ask if people in the region know of parts of Western Massachusetts that were involved in the revolution, or people that were in the revolution that we should know about and make sure we highlight, please do be in touch. I'm also, as a part of the chair of tourism, the chair of the Women's History Trail. And so again, this is an effort that is going on all over the state, and there are sites all over the state, including in Franklin County. But if there's places we should be aware of and highlighting, do please be in touch with me or anyone in the delegation, and they'll pass it along. When you're in the Senate, even if you chair something, you end up being on a bunch of other committees as well. So I'm also the vice chair of transportation, the vice chair of bonding, and I'm on 8 committees total, which is lots of fun, because I have nothing to do better than drive to Boston and sit through committee hearings all day, even though I live as far as possible away from the State House. And in terms of travel and tourism, and I thank Jesseye for some of the comments she was making, I'm finding a renewed interest and a renewed passion for travel, for tourism from the new administration. The governor just appointed a new director of MOD. I find this person who had worked closely with Lieutenant Governor Driscoll in Salem to be excited, to be ready to go, wants to highlight the best of the state and make sure that we're building both partnerships around the state, but also attracting people in from other parts of the country. So excited, anything I can do to help on that, please let me know. The second thing I wanted to talk about was also transportation. So in the Chapter 90 bond bill, which is the vehicle by which we pave roads and provide money for local communities, on the Senate side, we were able to get a special addition of rural directed road money. And because of that, it came about, I had some of the Senate leadership in my district, they were really impressed with what they saw and really taken aback by how difficult it can be for towns of less than 2,000 people to find money to come up with projects. And so I've been appointed to a conference committee. And so a conference committee is when there's a difference between a House version and a Senate version. 3 members of the House and 3 members of the Senate are put together to try to reconcile these differences. In 12 years, I was never on one in the House. This is the kind of difference you can have in the Senate. Right away, they put you to work because there's so few of us. And it's exciting because in that conference committee, we're really trying to make sure that we get this money out. I see the mayor shaking her head. But also that we get as much funding as possible to small towns and rural communities like here in Franklin County. And then the last thing I want to mention is the Green Bank. And so the Green Bank, yes, Nancy, clap, yes, yes. The Green Bank, the birth of that idea came from Franklin County. I was working with local activists, Greening Greenfield specifically, on ideas of how we get funding for renewable energy projects to people directly. Funding for projects that maybe don't meet the metrics of traditional banks, don't hit Wall Street targets, takes longer, still profitable, but maybe takes a little longer time. And there was a rival bill in the Senate at the time, and the gentleman who filed that bill insisted that natural gas should be considered a clean energy. And we didn't agree with that, did we, Nancy? So I found a different way of doing this, something called a Green Bank that existed in a couple of other states. And we did research, we found out how to make it work, and I started filing a bill on this in 2015. And when we brought Speaker DeLeo, remember, to the chamber years back, because of your advocacy, because of people right here in this room, because of people in our county, the House made a stab at this in 2019. They called it Greenworks. It was $1 billion to do these renewable energy projects. And then COVID hit and the whole thing got derailed. But I'm really happy to say that as of Tuesday, Governor Healy announced the creation of the Massachusetts Community Climate Bank. So thank all of you for the work and the ideas and the passion that have helped make this happen. And we look forward to working together as a delegation and with all of you to make sure that that funding comes out to Western Massachusetts. So again, thank you to the people. This is probably the last time I get to say this because there's people here that have voted for me in the House. Thank you for 12 years for the honor of serving you. Thank you to the people of Greenfield for the honor of having been your representative for 10 years. You took a chance on a young guy who had never been elected, and I hope it paid dividends, and I will always be appreciative. And to the 57 towns that I have now, thank you also, and I look forward to serving you hopefully for at least as long. And now it's my great honor to bring up my colleague who we share 11 towns in Franklin County with, former director of this chamber, Representative Natalie Blais.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to be here with you today. Russ Piotr caught me at the beginning of this breakfast and said he was so excited to hear about what I had to talk about. And I said, well, that's great, because I don't really know yet. So hopefully I can deliver for you, Russ. I just want to start by thanking Jesseye and Lisa and Marion for bringing us all together. You're like the heartbeat of Franklin County, and this breakfast and all of the breakfasts are incredible ways for us to come together as a community. As a result of redistricting, you know that our districts changed, as Senator Mark just noted. I want to thank him for his service to Franklin County and for serving us as a senator now. I would like to welcome the newest member of the Franklin County delegation, Representative Aaron Saunders, to Eaglebrook. Aaron has a crazy district. It spans 4 counties, from Ludlow all the way up and around the Quabbin. It's really extraordinary, and he's done an extraordinary job himself getting to know this new district and helping us to serve Franklin County. And with that, I also want to recognize Rep. Susanna Whips. She and I have the honor of sharing Franklin County and Greenfield, representing the city of Greenfield together now. So I just want to thank her for being in the 1st Franklin District today, too. And it is an honor to serve alongside our senators, Senator Mark and Senator Comerford. This delegation is able to do a lot together because of the areas of interest and expertise that we each have. We're all very different people who come from very different backgrounds. And so we're working to address each one of these areas in ways that only we can, because that's what we love to work on, and we are able to do that alongside you. And so much of that work is around addressing the demographic shifts that we are seeing here in Western Massachusetts. And that work is hard, and it's huge, right? It's housing, it's jobs, it's healthcare, it's transportation, it's childcare, higher education, K-12 education. And because, and the housing piece, I know that Rep. Whips is going to talk a little bit about this. You know, all of these things together need to be addressed, and we are working together as a delegation to do that. There is a growing awareness around the challenges facing rural communities, and how do we know that? Well, we have a new Director of Rural Affairs, and I'm so glad to have Ann Gobi here. She is a fierce fighter for our rural communities. And I want to thank the Healy Driscoll administration. Russ! God! I want to thank the Healy Driscoll administration for creating that position, for recognizing the fact, finally, that the challenges that we're facing in rural communities are unique and that we deserve a position that is dedicated to helping us to address those challenges and build on the opportunities. The other thing that we've seen in the State House is the creation of an agriculture committee. Senator Mark mentioned that Senator Comerford and I are serving on this newly created committee. It used to be part of the Environment, Natural Resources, and Agriculture Committee last session. We've elevated agriculture to its own committee because the leadership has heard directly from us about the importance of our agricultural system, of our farmers, and certainly about strengthening our local food system. We also know that we're gaining some traction with the funding that we have seen directed towards rural school aid. It was $5.5 million last year in the last budget. The Healy Driscoll administration increased that number to $7.5 million. The very first governor, thank you. She is the very first governor that has increased that line item ever since its creation. The House was able to increase that number to $10 million in its budget, and thanks to the Senate, we're looking at the possibility of $15 million going to rural school aid in the FY24 budget. That is a phenomenal increase. So from $5.5 million to $15 million, possibly, in one budget. That is a direct result of your efforts. It is a direct result of our efforts to lift up the challenges that our rural schools are facing. As many of you know, I've been working on this as the House Chair of the Rural Schools Commission. We do have a bill now to incorporate the recommendations, the 36 recommendations included in that report. But getting that rural school aid number up to at least $60 million was one of those recommendations. So I'm very pleased that we have this step in the right direction, but there is more work to be done. The bill will have a hearing at some point this session, and I will be calling on you to hopefully testify in support. One of the great things about COVID, if you can believe that there was one good thing that came out of it, is that you can testify virtually before committees. So you no longer have to take an entire day off to travel to Boston if you want to testify in support of a bill. We here in Western Massachusetts have to take advantage of this. It is a way for our voices to be heard in the State House in a way that it has never been possible before. So if there is a housing bill, if there's another bill that you're interested in, sign up to testify. And if you need help identifying those bills or how to do that, reach out to any one of us and we will connect you. But please take advantage of this opportunity to share what we are seeing here in Western Massachusetts and to make the case for these pieces of legislation that are so critically important to our future. Russ, was that okay? Okay. So at this point in time, I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Rep. Susanna Whips. It is extraordinary to serve in the legislature alongside her. She is the dean of the Franklin County House delegation, having served the longest, and I will turn it over to Rep. Whips.
Thank you, Rep. Blais, for having me in your gorgeous district. And speaking of gorgeous districts, that is not Hallmark's doppelganger there, that's actually our friend Aaron Saunders, who has taken several of my towns. Belchertown, Wendell, New Salem, Petersham couldn't be in better hands than with Representative Saunders. I was so sad. There's a shift always when redistricting happens. And it's hard when you build relationships with communities to then have the committee say, oh, well, they're not yours anymore. So it's like passing off your child to somebody else. And I'm so happy to have Rep. Saunders, as well as Rep. Zlotnick taking over the towns that I lost, and happy to be sharing the city of Greenfield with Rep. Blais. You know, usually they invite you up to speak based on, sometimes alphabetically, and by the time I get up here, everybody has covered everything I was going to talk about. But today, Aaron, you got me. Even before I started, you know, housing is something that I've been focused on an awful lot. I use the expression the silver tsunami, which is all of our boomers leaving the workforce and aging out and taking much needed and well-deserved retirements, but wanting to age in place. And I have constituents throughout my districts who might be a senior couple living together, or perhaps a widow or widower in too much house, in a very expensive house that isn't accessible, that, you know, becomes unaffordable, and nowhere to go to age in place. And they're willing to stay in a house that they really can't afford because they care so much about their church community and their friends and their neighbors and the people they have lived with forever. And I have an old World War II veteran who I sat down with. He said, you know, I raised my family in this house. I would love to see a young family come and have the same experiences and play in the yard and enjoy my house, but there's nowhere for me to go. Nowhere that's safe, accessible, and affordable. And we have to start looking at production of safe, affordable, accessible, universal design homes for these people to stay in their community. Because once we get that, we're going to open up all of this inventory for new families to move into Franklin County. And with those new families, With those new families coming to Franklin County, we are addressing the declining enrollment we have in our schools. We are addressing workforce shortages. We are addressing so many of the issues that our communities are dealing with. So every time I get an opportunity to speak to anybody in leadership, and just yesterday, Representative Blais and I were talking to the new Secretary of Housing, which there hasn't been a Secretary of Housing. It's always been lumped with economic development, which they coincide, but we need somebody whose focus is on housing, and we're gonna stay and we're gonna talk and we're gonna fight, and we understand that for beautiful senior housing to happen, there's little return, if any, on investment. We need our federal partners, we need our state partners to come in and supplement that so it can happen. And Jim McGovern, we've got a tremendous partner in him, as well as our other members of our federal delegation, and we're so happy that they recognize how important this is. And Michelle, welcome. We are so happy to have you here at GCC. Another issue, it's funny, I had a chat with my friend Mike Knappich from Bay State not long ago, and Mike was telling me we need nurses. And I'm over at having my office hours at GCC, and the nursing instructors are like, we need more instructors. And I went in and I spoke to a class of nursing students, and I asked their instructor, to match the pay you get teaching at a community college, how many per diems a week would you have to work at a hospital? And she said, well, 1.5 or 2. We have to look at what we're paying our instructors. We have to make sure that our adjunct professors have insurance, are well treated and well paid, because that silver tsunami, we've got some amazing, healthy elders right now, but there's going to come a time 10 and 20 years from now, and we're not able to backfill to support their needs. And it's something we should have been looking at decades ago, we should have been planning for, but we're behind the 8 ball, and we need to support our community colleges. We need to build our network of nurses and clinicians and other folks who will help us move along and take care of everybody in our communities. So I thank you very much for having me today. I'm very honored to introduce my friend and colleague, Erin Saunders, to say a few words. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. So I feel I owe you the explanation. I was elected to my first term this past November. A couple of weeks later, I had a meeting or two in Boston. I parked in the Boston Common parking garage, and on the way back to my car, walking up the way, was a woman, all smiles, walks up to me and says, "Congratulations." I would not know this woman from anybody else in the world, but I thought it was nice of her to say congratulations. So I said, "Thank you very much." She said, "How's it going so far?" "Great. We're taking a picture on the State House steps. Would you care to join us?" Now I'm thinking, this is great. This is the best job in the world, being a state representative. You have strangers walk up to you wanting to take their picture with you. So we walk back up the way to the State House, and I'm trying to figure out who in the world this woman is. And she's telling me about all the work at Co-op and the advocacy for employee-owned businesses. And now I'm racking my brain because maybe I missed something. This was not at the top of the list. I heard a lot about healthcare. I heard a lot about energy and the environment and education and so on. And I'm going through this mental Rolodex. We get up to the State House steps. There's about a dozen people. I don't know any of them either. And from behind me, and if any of you have been to the State House, the front steps there know that traffic on Beacon Street could be loud. So in a voice loud enough to drown out the Beacon Street traffic, I hear from behind me my new friend say, "Everyone, I want to introduce you to Senator Paul Mark." You would not believe the promises I made to this group of people. And brother, it's always a pleasure. I want to give a very sincere thank you to my colleagues in the House, Natalie Blais and Susie Whips. Natalie mentioned that this is a unique district. It's the Daniel Shays district. It roughly follows Route 202. Ludlow and Belchertown, Pelham, Shutesbury, New Salem, Wendell, and Petersham. It was amalgamated from pieces of 4 districts in the previous redistricting. And I have the honor and really the privilege in a sense of coming into a seat where I get to work with 3 women still in the House. Susanna Whips, Natalie Blais, and Mindy Dom, who had Pelham in her district. And I can't tell you the benefit it is to the district, to the folks in Franklin County, in New Salem, Shutesbury, and Wendell, where I represent, that when I have a question, I can go to them in the chamber. They're still active and engaged, and certainly in our regional priorities, it has made my job 5 months in so much easier, along with Senator Comerford and Senator Mark. Thank you very much. So, Rep. Whips alluded to it. I have nothing left to say that hasn't already been said. I think you can see the dynamic powerhouse of a county delegation that you have working for you, but I would want to make 2 observations before introducing our first Director of Rural Affairs. The first is I was taken by this view. It is truly one of the great assets that Franklin County has and that our rural communities have. And as we in the legislature work towards our urgent transition to renewable, carbon-free energy, we have to do so in a way that is responsible. We have to do so in a way that doesn't allow the clear cutting of our forests and our wooded areas to be the only way that we're able to increase our share of renewable solar energy. It is something worth clapping about. We have seen, especially in our smaller Franklin County communities, who do not have the resources of the large cities to fight back against efforts to develop and clear cut, against efforts as we're dealing in Wendell today, for a developer to go to Boston, to the Department of Public Utilities, with a 700-page filing to say, this is how we're going to work around your local bylaw that represents the values of the folks who live and work in your community. These are the lifts that are in front of us. The energy and the presence and the activism of the chamber, of folks throughout the county, help us do that job. And then the second thing I want to say, it's been alluded to in the context of transportation, certainly, and that is access to healthcare. We have long talked about affordability being a prime challenge in our healthcare system. It continues to be. But I'll save the show of hands, but maybe ask you to think about the last time you tried to get an appointment with your primary care physician. If you don't have a primary care physician, what it's like to try to find one. We have unique challenges in rural parts of the Commonwealth, and certainly in Franklin County, where we need to be deliberate about finding ways to ensure that everyone in our communities has access to high quality health care. It is going to be an all hands on deck effort, and I look forward to working with all of you towards that end. So with that, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce the first Director of Rural Affairs. Rep. Blais had noted, it really underscores I'm going to give you 3 more of those, Ann. Look at. It really underscores the Healy-Driscoll administration's commitment to our rural communities, and the governor could have not picked a better person for this role. Ann Gobi. Ann Gobi. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Jesseye, thank you for having me. This is a fantastic breakfast. You helped me with my steps since I had to park in Conway. I appreciate that. That was awesome. You have a crackerjack legislative delegation, and they deserve another hand. Because I have to tell you, you know, the work that they do, you know, you can hear it, right? You hear the passion, they know the issues, but they'll listen to. They are listened to, and they turn those words into action, and that's what makes a difference. And all of us benefit because of the great work that they do. I do have to say, though, in the 21 years that I was in the legislature, I never got mooned. So, feeling a little left out. The only pressed ham was on the breakfast table today that I saw. Wow, sorry I missed that. You know, when Aaron was saying about being the first, what's important about being the first is that you're not the last, right? And there's no question that I am very grateful to the Healy Driscoll administration because, as you have already heard, you know, they're elevating this conversation. And because they've listened. You know, when the governor went around campaigning, she made it known that she was going to be a governor for all 351 cities and towns. Well, guess what? 181 of them are rural. 181. Think about that. It's a lot. And, you know, we talk about the challenges. We know what they are. We know what they are. And we've got such great partners. You're working with Linda and so many. I was at the STAM meeting yesterday, and part of what I said to that, I'm going to repeat it today, is that we know what the challenges are. We know the work that we have to do, but we also have to promote what's so great about our area. People forget about that. You know, I try to remind my colleagues, and I know you do as well, when we're in Boston and you think about, we've got the beautiful Quabbin Reservoir. And that 412 billion gallons of water, those people in Boston and 61 other communities, when they turn on that tap, that water is coming from this area, right? And they have to remember that. And when they sit around their kitchen table that probably came from sustainable wood products, right? From this area, they have to remember where it came from. And the food on that table, they have to remember where that came from too. And so those are kind of the things that we have to remind people on the other parts of the state, the importance of our rural communities, what we provide in people, what we provide in talent, what we provide in resources. They cannot forget that. And so I'm absolutely thrilled to be in this position, to have an opportunity to work with all of you and with the best delegation anywhere that you could find, because together we will get this done. We will get it done. So I'll be around. I'm anxious to get to work. I can tell you that one of the first orders of business, and Linda heard this as well, is that we know that gateway communities have received a lot of notice, but getting a lot of notice, they've also got a lot of this. Well, guess what? We need a rural designation. That's going to be one of my first orders of business, to make sure we have rural communities. And I know I have a legislative delegation that will back me up on that. So a lot of work to do, but we'll get it done, and thank you again for having me. All right. I'm sorry. I was Cody, right? Koby. Sorry about that. Congressman McGovern, as many of you know, has been a champion in so many things. He's been my congressman for many, many years. And you know, one of the areas that all of us have worked a lot with the congressman on food insecurity issues. He has been an absolute champion on that issue, way before anybody was talking about it. Jim was in the trenches and making sure that his colleagues on the federal level knew about it. And because of a lot of the work that he did, there is a food systems caucus at the State House that I was proud to be a member of, and that everyone here is a member of as well. And a lot of that good work is carried on with when Koby is out here in the district. And here we go, Koby, come on up. Sorry about that.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you to Jesseye and the Chamber for having me here today. I just want to start by thanking the other members of our legislative delegation and our local leaders, who I see many of you here in this room, for the unbelievable work that you do representing Western Massachusetts. I think we all need to give you a hand. So as we're aware, I think most of us, much of the debate in Washington recently has revolved around the issue of raising the debt ceiling. And this was a frustrating process that took until the 11th hour to strike an agreement, but we were fortunately able to avert a disaster, because breaching the debt limit would have been catastrophic for our nation. But although we didn't tank the U.S. economy, I have to be honest that in our office, we're not exactly celebrating this agreement for a number of reasons. Throughout this debate, the stark values and policy differences were on full display from both major parties in Washington, and I just wanted to take a minute to talk about a few in particular. So first and foremost, I think it's crucial to understand that raising the debt ceiling has nothing to do with additional spending. It's about paying the bills that America already has. And in my view, I don't think anyone should be threatening the full faith and credibility of the United States and holding our economy hostage to try to pass draconian cuts that couldn't pass on their own merit. So in these floor debates, we watched too many members claim that there wasn't enough money to fund programs like SNAP and TANF, which are both programs that provide assistance to people who really need those benefits to survive. And those same members also claimed that we needed to send the Pentagon a much larger budget than they even asked for. But that argument reinforces an antiquated notion of national security, which is that our national security is defined by our stockpile of weapons, and in particular, nuclear weapons. And don't get me wrong, I want a national defense second to none, but this is the year 2023, and we need to redefine what national security means. We need to expand that definition to include healthcare, protecting our environment, making sure that everyone has enough to eat, improving our education system, better childcare, and so on. Because national security should be a discussion about what we as a nation need to provide each and every American to make sure that they can live safely and securely. And I think one of the most harmful inclusions in this legislation was the increased so-called work requirements for older SNAP recipients, which could lead to over 700,000 being thrown off. Because first of all, the term work requirements implies that people who receive these benefits to survive need to be forced to work. And that message that gets repeated over and over is that these are lazy people who would rather take your hard-earned tax dollars than earn a living for themselves. But the reality is that the majority, the overwhelming majority, in fact, of SNAP recipients who can work do work. And most people who receive these benefits and don't work are children, they're people with disabilities, and they're seniors. And I want to remind everyone that the average SNAP benefit is $6 a day, which boils down to $2 per person per meal. And I'm going to guess that most of us couldn't find a cup of coffee for that price. Mothers with kids as young as 7 years old could lose these life-saving benefits because of this change. And hunger is costly because kids don't learn well when they're hungry. Workers aren't as productive. If you're told to take medication with a meal and you take it on an empty stomach, that can be a disaster. The list goes on. And without a doubt, there are better ways to deal with our national deficit than to target those who are already vulnerable. We can make sure the wealthiest corporations and individuals in this country pay their fair share, because we have some of the wealthiest corporations on the entire planet who pay little to nothing in taxes. And the bottom line is that they shouldn't be paying lower tax rates than their lowest paid employees. This bipartisan budget agreement, I don't want to sound like it's all doom and gloom, because the good news is that it did push off the next debt limit until after this next presidential election and averted a first ever default that would have been catastrophic for our nation, triggering a recession costing millions of jobs and devastating retirement accounts. And while some of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle have fought to cut programs like Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid, and the Affordable Care Act, and by the way, that's undermining programs that Americans have already paid into, they failed to do so. Because this bipartisan agreement protects Social Security and rejects extreme proposals that would have jeopardized healthcare coverage for over 20 million Americans. So this original plan that I just mentioned would have undermined veterans' healthcare as well, and could have resulted in potentially 30 million fewer outpatient visits for veterans that were covered. But despite the concerns that I mentioned with this agreement and what that'll mean going forward, I also think there are plenty of reasons to be optimistic about this agreement as well. We were able to protect some of our biggest accomplishments from the last few years, including the bipartisan infrastructure framework, which is rebuilding America, the Chips and Science Act that's helped fuel a resurgence in manufacturing, and the Inflation Reduction Act, which is protecting our planet through the largest clean energy investment in our nation's history, ensuring that corporations like Amazon pay a minimum 15% tax and lowering prescription drug costs for the American people. And before I go, I just want to take a step back from the latest Beltway drama and reflect on some encouraging trends that we're seeing. Annual inflation has fallen for 11 months and is at the lowest level in more than 2 years. Gas prices are down about $1.40 from their peak since the start of Putin's war. Energy prices fell 11% in the last year, and grocery prices are trending down, with eggs in particular down about 30% since this January. And Democrats, like myself, are focused on lowering costs for families and investing in America to build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out. And we were able to take on Big Pharma, lower prescription drug costs, and cap insulin at $35 a month. We were able to invest in clean energy to lower energy bills, to renew our focus on spurring investments in manufacturing and clean energy, which has led to more than $470 billion in private sector investments. We've seen a resurgence from small businesses after the pandemic, including more than 10 million new small business applications. And since President Biden took office, there have been more than 13 million jobs created, and unemployment has stayed under 4% for 16 consecutive months. And I just want to also mention that right here in Franklin County, Congressman McGovern, by virtue of the last omnibus bill, was able to secure earmarks worth $450,000 for voice-over pagers for first responders in Franklin County, and $975,000 for the town of Montague's Avenue A streetscape redesign and improvement project. So despite the challenges of the last few years, we are making progress, and I want to promise everyone here today that Congressman McGovern is committed to continuing that progress, to protecting our nation's most vulnerable, and to working towards making sure that our country and Commonwealth are a better place to live. So once again, thank you to Jesseye, to the Chamber for having me here today, and thank you to all of you for the work you do for a stronger Western Massachusetts. Thank you.
Thank you, Koby. And again, thank you to everyone for your hard work and for taking the time to be here. And for the rest of us, you do not have to wait until next year's legislative breakfast to get involved. As we said, we can now testify virtually. Please take advantage of that option. We're really pushing social media today, but please follow our legislators on social media so you can see all of the ways they are working for Franklin County and beyond. Email them your concerns, email them your successes. I'm sure their inbox doesn't see as many of those, and that would be a real treat. And stop by their office hours. Please get engaged. This is the way forward for Franklin County, and we are so lucky to have this delegation. We need to take full advantage of all of the incredible legislators we have. So we are dangerously close to raffle time. Dangerously close. Liz Fisk is ready. But first, I do want to just publicly acknowledge this is our last breakfast for the series. We will have our next breakfast in September. So I do want to take a moment to publicly acknowledge our fantastic volunteers who are so wonderful at every breakfast. And that's Michael, Sharon, Suzanne, Peg, just amazing. Thank you very much for being here.